everybody, and welcome to Just Saying. It is, I have no clue. It is April 15th. It's Tax Day 2013. I'm Kim, and I'm joined here, as I am every weekend, by my lovely co-host, Mary. Hi, Mary.
Hello, Kim. How could you forget what today is?
I think everybody tries to forget what today is.
I'm wondering what the penalty is if you work for the post office and you call out sick today.
I'm thinking clock tower and sniper rifle, but that's just my guess.
Yes, I was thinking that today. I needed stamps, right?
Oh, Lord.
And I'm thinking, you know what? I'll pay the interest fee if it goes in late to my, the bills. But luckily, I was able to purchase them at the supermarket. Now, I sent mine in last week, so I was good to go. But I've gone by the post office and watched the line come out and turn around, and we're not too far from, it's like a post office annex, it's like a main one where all the stuff from the locals go to, and it's so busy that they have people standing out in the parking lot. It's like ordering a burger at McDonald's. They take it, put it in a bucket, stamp it, away they go. And that line goes around the block a few times. So,
oh, yeah, and it goes like that till midnight.
Full for you for waiting till the last minute. Anyway, got some things to talk about right off the bat, and some things happened today up in Boston. I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, for anybody who hasn't been paying attention to the news, I didn't. I just caught it briefly off Facebook and then went and looked. There was a bombing at the Boston Marathon today. Actually, 2 bombs went off. So far, they found 2 others. There are 2 people dead, 28 injured last I saw. One of the dead is an 8-year-old little girl.
Oh. I got a phone call. I had to go on a cat rescue today. That's why you didn't hear from me all afternoon.
Yeah.
I was chasing down an old cat. And as I was pulling up the driveway, my good friend Sue, the vet Sue, she's away this past week, and her brother actually ran in the race today. And he had literally just crossed the finish line when that happened. And she said, I've been trying to call you because I know how you panic. Because she had stopped and picked up her dad and took her dad, and they were there waiting for him to cross over. But thank God they're all okay. But you could hear in the background on the phone the commotion that was going on. I could barely hear her, and it took her a while to be able to even call out. But thank God they're okay, but unfortunately there's quite a few that are not. As you know, and everybody out there listening knows, I'm from outside of Philadelphia, and the mayor had gotten on, and he's assuring everybody that they're still going to go with the Broad Street Run, which is another one of the big runs that happen every year. That's, I believe, May 5th. There'll be heightened up security for that one for sure. But, I mean, seriously, something's got to give one way or another. I mean, this is unbelievable. And like my husband said at the dinner table, if in fact it was terrorists involved, they succeeded. Whether it was a little water balloon going off, it caused and created, that anxiety, that being scared all over again. And so whatever it was they set out to do, they accomplished it.
Well, they are calling it a terrorist act. They're not sure whether it's domestic or foreign, but They said that there were actually pellets found in the debris, which means it was packed to do injury.
Right.
Wow.
Right. Well, prayers go out to everybody involved up there.
Absolutely.
And let's just hope that when the next run that occurs in Philadelphia, security's in place, and we get these suckers before they attempt to sit back and gloat that they did it again.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Anyway, with that being said, let's talk some happy stuff.
Happy stuff. We have almost now 3 weeks until the Lower Catskills Parecon, May 3rd and 4th. Less than 3 weeks now. Today we picked up the last of the stuff we needed to get, except for some things. But no, today we went and had the schedules with the sponsors and everybody. Mm-hmm. We got all those printed up, so they're done. The only thing I'm waiting for to be delivered left is sales banner.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah, you got to remind me. I got to order some more books. I was just sitting here thinking today, I'm going there. I'm going to have my own table selling my book, or Dinah's in my book. I have like 8 copies.
yeah, you better get on it. But
I think send them to me pretty quick, so I'm not losing sleep.
The 19th is the last day you can get your packages online. After that, everything is priced by what you're actually purchasing.
Yep.
So go to penevents.webs.com. The speakers are all there. Some of the vendors are there. All the prices are there. It's going to be a good time. I actually talked to Patty today. She's got her plane ticket in her little hand.
Ooh.
We may or may not get pierogies because they decided to charge her like $80 a bag.
To carry pierogies on a plane?
Yeah, so one she said would be her clothes and the other one would be pierogies, and that was $80 to transport.
If she had to pay $80 for that, they better be melting your mouth.
to transport the black market pierogies from Canada.
Oh my God, that is unbelievable. You know what? When I went out to California last year, and they charged, because I brought a bag load of crap just to give to everybody, and then of course I bought 2 bag loads of crap to take home. I ended up shipping it home by the mail and saved so much money.
Yeah, but it's food, so I'm not sure you could ship it and trust the post office not to eat it.
Well, not pierogies. We shouldn't let her off the hook. We should buy all the ingredients, and instead of her investigating Thursday night, let her go and make them. We can see her there in the chalet with the rolling pin.
Absolutely. That's what we're going to do, because darn it. But yeah, she's like, $80, that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
but I've actually had someone from England ship me over some stuff. Beanie Babies, when they were the big thing, I got the ones that we couldn't get here. And they had actually busted open the package and stole the ones that I couldn't get here. Out. Before they ever got here, and the package was all ripped up and retaped. So, yeah, we don't want to trust pierogies in the hands of the United States Postal Service. Just saying.
Well, you know what? Before we go any further with some of the funny things we usually come up with, we should bring our guest in because he's actually having a good time.
He is.
Some of the stupid stuff we're putting out there. So go ahead, Kim. That's your thing.
Our guest this evening is not only a very good friend of ours, he is an author, a filmmaker, a paranormal investigator, a crazy man, and we love him. Tommy Golden. Hi, Tommy.
Hello.
Hi, Tommy.
How is everyone doing this afternoon or this evening?
Well, we're doing okay. We try to make the best of what happens throughout the day, but we always, no matter where we go and how we start out, somewhere along the line, food always comes into the conversation.
Nobody mentioned cheesecake yet. We're still safe.
I'm sorry, but Swappy in the chat room's already posted cheesecake, so.
Dang it.
One of these weeks we should we should put a disclaimer in the beginning of the show. No food, and especially we'll see cheesecake sits in its own category, and no cheesecake talk, and see how many people last, and see how long the show can go on.
10 minutes, we're out, and we're off the air for life, I'm telling you.
See how long we can just put the timer. Maybe run a pool, everybody in 10 minutes, and then they start talking food.
Now it's okay. Just to keep Tommy in the group here. Now Kim does not make a cheesecake that I know of, but Tommy's wife Kim makes a bad butt cake. Oh my God!
And she actually makes cheesecake now. Now she's more into the Mississippi mud cheesecake. But oh my gosh, it just.
We don't care what kind of cheesecake it is.
Me either. That's it.
So did I hear rumors that you might be coming?
Yes, I probably will be coming. I'm just checking everything, making sure I don't have any contractual agreements, that may pop up. But we may be coming up there. We hang out, have fun with everybody, and just have a reunion.
Yeah, baby.
That would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
We would certainly enjoy having you there. I've never met you, and it would be fun.
I think so because you got investigators that are just so serious about the scientific side, and then you have the more sensitive side. I am probably 50-50 in the bunch. I like to have fun. I used to be really seriously minded whenever I investigated, until I watched myself on video and said, what in the heck why was I doing that? I had an opportunity to be at like this place and absorb it, and instead I was so worried about the camera and
Although I must say, when Tommy is filming, one of his legs and his head will be all over the room, but the other foot and the hand on the camera will never move. I guarantee it.
I have a steady arm and a steady leg, and the other one will just take off if I see something.
Oh, geez. Well, that sounds like somebody else I know, except for the leg. I mean, Kim was literally, like, her arm was like going crazy, but yet that camera, she moved it over to them. She was filming. I wish somebody was filming you, Kim.
Yeah, we got everything except for actually someone filming me.
We're talking about an incident at the Shanley where something went after her arm. I mean, it was like really like messed up, and anybody else would have been freaking out. But there's Kim. Do I see a mist? Do I see a mist? And the arm's going like this.
Well, and everybody's like, "Do you need to go? You need to go downstairs. Do we need it?" And I'm like, "I'm fine. It's just the stupid arm. Go look."
And if you see the videos is like, she had it on a tripod.
Tommy taught me how to do that. One arm never moves. The other one.
We were all ready to run, and I'm not moving. I see a mist. Anyway.
Well, to me, it's so silly. You watch these shows, and they're like, "Oh, did you see that move? Okay, and we're wrapping now. Okay, bye."
Well, that, and like 2 seconds later, when someone says, "Did you see it over here?" Well, instead of pointing the camera toward that, they point it toward the talent in their face. And I get it as an entertainer and also as a filmmaker. I get it. But you have two cameras. Why not? And the big picture is because there wasn't anything there in the first place.
You didn't hear that.
Okay,
no, I have had the opportunities to film with some really, really great companies. And I have to say that there are some shows, I can't name them, but there are some shows out there that have producers and have executive producers over them that require them to have something in their findings. Some of your best Go shows got canceled. Ghost Lab got canceled because they had ethics, and they said, we're not going to fake anything, and if we don't see anything, we don't see anything. But, of course, that's a lot of times sometimes they forget that television is for entertainment as well. And that's what I've noticed, like the show that has three guys, one tall, fit guy, and a guy with a goatee.
The Triumphant Trio.
That show is one of the most entertaining shows in America. Could it be admitted into a court of law for scientific purposes? Hell no. Absolutely not. But, I get it. He is a nice looking man, and the women swoon over him.
Under the age of 15. Oh, did
Exactly.
I say that? I'm sorry.
Right, and that's right now. The MTV, the MTV age right now is what's pushing ratings. So I tell my friends, if I have produced or filmed a show, to have their kids tune in, have their kids tweet it, Facebook it. I usually don't because my age bracket are not the ones that are pushing the ratings. The tweeny boppers right now are the ones that are pushing the ratings the biggest. And a lot of these shows are creeping up from out of nowhere because of Facebook and because of YouTube. They're doing things on YouTube, and the producers are seeing it, and they're buying the shows. It's kind of like the new show that's coming out, the Redneck Ghost Hunting show. That it's going to be seriously damning to the paranormal community. It's going to be funny, but I don't see how that type of entertainment is going to help us out any at all.
Right.
Well,
If you want that kind of entertainment, watch Honey Boo Boo and Duck Dynasty.
Right.
That's just
Exactly.
plain funny.
Exactly.
But, getting back to the entertainment aspect of it, I think when it first came out, and I don't want to mention show names, because I was guilty of sitting there going, oh, don't disturb me. All my friends knew, do not call the house during this time. My husband, if you worked late, you're going to have to wait until this time to eat, because here I am, or go warm up some leftovers. But the point is when it first came out, it was much more interesting. I don't think it was as, I'll call it Hollywood, as it is now.
Right.
Do you really feel, as a paranormal investigator / filmmaker, that back then they thought that it was going to expand as much as it is now? I'm looking at some of the people in the chat room that I work with on paranormal investigations. One is Sal and Jen. They're very serious investigators. They're a couple. They're not part of a team. But if I'm doing something, I would call them over anybody else to come in and do an investigation with me, because we're not this, okay? And they understand the concept that you can go to one location 10 times and walk away with nothing. Go the 11th time, EVPs, pictures, video, whatever. I don't think that they thought back then that the field was going to grow and people like ourselves get it, what it really takes to get that banging, the door open, and the loud noises and the EVPs.
Well, and that's the thing is I don't usually call out show names because to me it's disrespectful. But I can talk about production companies. Pilgrim Films. They are when they first started Ghost Hunters. They wanted this idea, and they didn't really know how to present it. If you watch the very first couple of episodes of Ghost Hunters, it was a bunch of fumbling around in the middle of the night, them not really knowing what's going on because they had never had a film crew with them. So finally, after mid-season, they got into the swing of things. But think about the big picture. Each talent, depending on the network that they sell it to, can get anywhere between $1,500 and $2,500 per episode. So you have 22 episodes within a season. It's a decent paycheck for them. But look at this. Whenever the show was inside of a block of time, each time there's a commercial, the production company and the network is getting a slice of that little bitty pie. Well, out of pocket, probably each and every episode, maybe $50,000. That's really inflating it big time, maybe paying location fees. They're getting $1.7 to $2.8 million per episode. This is why there's so many of these trash paranormal shows, because it's such an easy turnaround. I was given the opportunity to do one, but, ethics, I don't know. I prayed on it and said, God, if you really want me to do this, I will do it. And, I broke down going to the casting call. My vehicle wouldn't start once when I got there. I was late. The camera wouldn't work, and I said, God, you don't have to strike me down. I'm out of here. I don't need this. And sure enough, that's one of those shows that lasted 2 or 3 episodes and then kind of went away. But the entertainment value, I don't think they understood it. I don't think that when Ghost Hunters and even when Ghost Adventures, when they first came out, Tupelo Entertainment, they did not know what they had, because Zach originally shot a documentary and it got bought up. I mean, he presented it, won a couple of awards at film festivals, and the rest is history. Within 6 weeks, he was filming. So, but Ghost Adventures itself, I have to respect them because they're real, true entertainers, and they don't hide that. What I have seen, in which I just really, I don't know, it just puts a bad taste in my side of the world, is talent that have been on ghost hunting shows all of a sudden not going to film school, not taking any community college classes, instantly saying they're directors, instantly saying they're producers. And I'm like, oh, really? And, it's not just one, it's many, many. And if they weren't actors, they wouldn't have like IMDb pages, the internet database for movies and television. So I take it with a grain of salt. When I go to these conventions and see these big swelled head personalities, I approach them as a filmmaker and just shake your head and say, hey, that's their personality. And you can always tell the ones that are made to be there. Those are the ones that are usually half drunk and hardly are at their tables, like at Scarefest or other large venues like that. Because when they signed that contract, they didn't realize the little fine print that was involved.
Well, and swelled head, you would be surprised with this Parecon coming up, how many My Ghost Story people.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm a celebrity.
Well, that's the thing.
I want this and this and this and this and this, and I tell them all the same thing. I've had all my speakers booked since January. Sorry, you can buy a booth if you want.
Right, and that's the thing that I see, and I call it out. It's like there's no more shame in my game. After, because I've been cussed out, I've been told that my films suck.
I said sorry. You said you wouldn't bring it up.
I've you have to build a really thick shark-like skin if you're in the entertainment industry. So, but one thing that I really buck is when I see people put on their little banners, as seen on the Discovery Channel.
As seen on YouTube.
And I always go up to them and say, hey, does the network know that you have their logo?
No.
And usually I'm told to kind of not bother them anymore. But, Chris Dedman and I, when Chris and I first met, we had that conversation about people are saying, as seen on My Ghost Story. Now, I could see if you were a producer or you were on it each and every single episode, but for 22 minutes, at that 22 minutes, you're sitting on camera for probably 4 minutes.
Yep.
And that gives you celebrity status. It just doesn't make any sense. If that's the case, I should be able to put every television icon there is because I've worked on, The Voice. I should put my little The Voice icon. But it's just silly. I don't think it should be a NASCAR competition where we have sponsors or anything like that. But it just getting ridiculous with My Ghost Stories, my as seen on YouTube.
We're waiting for you to put on your banner as seen on PEN.
Exactly. That's it.
Hey, we count, darn it.
But I don't think it's ever going to go away. I don't think it is. I think because with the different media, and that's the one thing I definitely wanted to hit on tonight, talking about it. There's just a new media out there. This new media is social media. It's internet media. It's your show. Think about this. How many people tune into your show? If that person were required to just pay 1 penny per minute that they watch a show, which doesn't seem like that much, by the end of the year, you're going to have a couple of, $10,000-$15,000. Well, that's what I'm talking about. We don't know how to gauge it, and we don't know how to, kind of say, well, this new media, how, because you can be doing this show when someone else is doing another show and be talking to the same guest, but one be taped.
Right.
And it's like, wow, and, we don't know how, as entertainers and also as filmmakers and producers, we don't know how to control it. It's like YouTube. I had no clue that you can work full-time for YouTube. I have 2 friends that's all they do. They go around watching and interviewing people out in the public and do silly stuff, and they're getting paid $200,000 a year to do silly stuff within the ghost hunting thing. So it just... The new media, we don't know where to go with it. And I think that's where the ghost hunting shows will go away. Think about it. When, 3 years ago, there was 2 whole nights full of ghost shows. Mm-hmm. Well, there still is, but they're showing the old shows now. There's not really any new ones coming out. You have Ghost Adventures, you have this Hillbilly Ghost Show. I think if they have a Honey Boo Boo meets ghost hunting, I think that's when I'm going to hang my hat up and say I'm done. You know, I'm just completely done.
Yeah, there is that. Well,
and I'm more on the documentarian side too. You know, cinema verite, and you know that what that translates to is cinema truth. You know, I love telling truthful stories. Now that's where me and the Booth brothers, I love their films. I love them because if a person lies, it's because they're lying. They don't tell the lies, and I love that. You know, if a person wants to make an ass out of themselves, they'll make an ass out of themselves, but it's truthful the whole way through. They're not editing to make them look like this other person, and I respect every second of film that they shoot because of that. And I've learned a lot from them, from their documentaries and the way they tell a story. And that's where I'm heading right now, is shooting, you know, documentary films for paranormal, and getting the truth out there instead of, you know, saying that 63,000 people died in your hospital, and when actuality maybe 15,000. That's still a lot, but, you know, if you're going to stretch the truth on that fact, what other facts have you stretched?
Right. Well, and I mean, I've worked with you a few times, but I think the most fun we had was the night of the dance.
Absolutely.
But it was actually down in ER.
Yeah, that's that. I'm telling you.
Because Tommy wanted to film a dowsing experiment that I do. And how did those statistics turn out for you, Tommy?
Well, and that's when I was heavily into trying to bring science into the filmmaking aspect of it. And, you know, you look at it in the big picture, it was very boring. I let 3 or 4 people watch it, and they said, Tommy, this is not entertaining. The facts were very entertaining, but I had to cut out like 85 minutes of the experiment, the most important thing. But facts, it was 100 for 100.
Right.
No.
You're the main witness to all this. The three of us down there, none of us knew the story.
Right.
Only you knew the story, and you were asking the questions. So for both 2 separate sets of rods to get 100 out of 100.
Right. And you know, that type of experiment, most your science-minded people, you know, when I did the paranormal conference tours, they would come up to me and they would say, Tommy, how in the world can you go from one side to another? You go to an investigation and you've got all these scientific pieces of equipment, then all of a sudden you throw them down and say, okay, talk to me. How can you do that? And I tell people, go out and spend $4 or $5 at your local thrift shop to get a book called The Men That Stare at Goats. It was a funny movie, but with every movie there's factual information. There was a scientific department in the Army that was at, not Fort Hood, it was 2 states up from us. I've got the information. I'm shooting a documentary about that one too. The Army had a psychic division during Vietnam. They were trying to find foxholes and hidden compartments. They also did dowsing experiments in Vietnam. They also did it in Kuwait. And people don't put that together. I mean, if the Army is doing this, there's something to it. And I think that the naysayers and the people that make fun of it are the people that are afraid of it. They've had something happen to them that they don't want the complete truth. It's like that hospital. I really don't want to know what is in, you know, on the 3rd floor, because I don't think my brain can handle it.
Yeah.
I don't think I can, because what if it's an angelic being? I can't handle that. I mean, I think I could probably think that I can handle it, but if it revealed itself to me, I would melt, I would cry, and I would just be like a little sissy, and I would be no good for anybody. So I think that people don't want the truth. They want to stay in that rose-colored glasses, warm, touchy-feely place that they're comfortable with. Until we get out of that as a research community, you know, we're just not, you know, we're just walking in circles. I mean, that's the way I feel.
Funny you should say that, because I have a discussion with a really close friend of mine all the time. I'll talk about, oh, I had this dream and the person was standing right there and da-da-da. And right when I was getting ready to, or they were getting ready to talk to me, I do believe, let me just back up, I do believe sometime in dreams you do have visitations.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
And I think you have them in dreams because I think in real life you couldn't handle it, okay? As much as I go out and I do the paranormal thing, and, I go seek, let me see if I can get a shot. I mean, I've crossed that one. I think we all start out with getting the perfect piece of evidence. But I agree. I think there are some things we just couldn't handle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I totally agree with dreams, because what's funny is 2 weeks ago, I had a dream that I was in South Pittsburgh and I broke down. And, my wife, got mad at me because I said, well, let's just go see if Doug and Cindy can kind of at least get our car towed to a local shop. And she got mad for some reason, and that just didn't seem right. So I took off walking, and I went to the hospital, and Paul Browning was there. And I went to Paul and said, hey, Paul, I got a hypothesis for you, and I explained it to him. The next day, Paul posted the exact same thing. I conversed with him, word for word. So that tells me that I think that, when we're in that REM state, our brain's relaxed, we don't have any external stimuli going into our brain waves, we're able to travel to distant places. It's kind of like I tell my daughter, she's 11, I tell her, each dream has some meaning in life. Even if you dream about a unicorn, that has some type of meaning. Don't discard it just as being a silly dream. It's got some type of life meaning.
Sort of like wanting a monkey?
Yes.
Eric's shaking his head no, just so you know.
Leave it to Kim to pop something like that.
No, Mary, it wasn't just me. It was also Tommy's daughter.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
We
All
decided
right.
we were going to get matching boy and girl monkeys, put little bows on them, and they were going to hang out in the tree in our front yard. And his Kim and my Eric both told us no.
Okay. With your filmmaking, and you pay attention to what's out there, are you seeing a trend that possibly the ghost hunting is kind of fading and we're getting more into the psychic shows?
Yeah, I'm starting to see more of the charlatans, and for some reason, everyone does have a gift. Don't get me wrong, but I just feel that, and I think Kim and Eric both can really say yep to this one. When you have these conventions, you always have that one. It's that one that always comes up to you and says, "Hey, I think I have abilities. Can you investigate with me?" Of course, being nice, you say yes. Well, they tell you all these things, but then you realize that they were inside the conversation prior to it. I think that what's happening with science people, and this is where my religion comes into play. When we talk about ghosts, we have to talk about religion. The science community gets pissed off at me because I don't need a piece of equipment to tell me that there's something there. I don't need it. I need a camera to document it because it may turn out to be something really cool. I don't need a BP meter anymore. I don't need a light up thing. If I have certain feelings that I know are true and accurate, the best EMF detector is your body and in your mind. And I kind of get it. I get tickled at people, those of us that are sensitive, and some of us that can see auras. And that's how I see ghosts or paranormal things. They look like white imagery that are at the corner of your eye. That's the only way that I can describe it. They're like predator people. And I will see people fumbling with their ghost meter thingy-mabobbers, trying to find the pattern of where it's going, and saying, I just want to shake them and say, they're right beside you, shut up, just let them talk. Let them talk, because, when I first started EVP research, I was completely scientific. And then I realized if I just shut up and listen, they'll talk to you. You know, even the most scientifically minded person, if left inside of a dark room by themselves, are going to have a paranormal experience. But they want to bring out the data books and say, well, you know, this never happened. Forget all that. Science is never going to accept this, ever. You're talking about death and dying. You're talking about a afterlife. But, you know, I love seeing the psychic side of paranormal coming out more. You know, 4 years ago, you would not see me in a dark room talking to things. You would see me with a bunch of meters and just a bunch of data loggers. Now I'm able to come out of the witch closet. There's no longer a witch hunt going on. You know, if I say that I feel something, no one's going to crucify me or put me on a stake. So I'm very open-minded. I bring my religion everywhere I go. And I think the biggest personal experience that I have ever had with Kim and Eric was Kim recorded an audio recording of me on the 3rd floor, and I was downstairs somewhere. Mm-hmm. That, to me, plus, you know, I didn't film it. Of course, you know, there was a crew that filmed it. I co-directed the hospital. When we were there at the Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, I recorded things that I can't explain. Now, it would be different if, you know, we had a bunch of investigators with, like, really cheap pieces of equipment. Not knocking anything. We're talking high-end production equipment that is supposed to not allow any outside interference to come through. You know, one shot took 20 takes because we kept hearing a woman screaming, kept hearing baby crying, and, you know, my audio tech, Katrina Coe, she is one of the best audio engineers out there. And, you know, halfway through lunch, she came up to me and said, Tommy, look, you know, you need to check, you know, day 3 of audio recording, and you'll hear me talk. And I said, well, Katrina, why did you record by yourself? She said, because all of you guys were outside looking for lights. So no one was in the hospital except for her down in the basement. Oh. And she recorded stuff that we actually put in the movie as like a cover. And it was bone chilling to have people that are completely scientifically minded have a personal experience of that place. It was just completely, and you know, we had crew that just completely said that they could not work on the project because they knew that the place was haunted. You know, that makes me, you know, feel pretty good that we were able to document it. And I think that's the most important thing is documentation. And what I'm doing is, as far as the paranormal community, is I'm trying to express and train people that want to put stuff on YouTube, want to put stuff on their website, how to document not the paranormal evidence, but our characteristics. You know, if you want to be credible, the camera has to be on your face at all times whenever you're doing EVP. Because that's, you know, right now that's television. Right. So I'm telling people, you know, go get a GoPro, put one in front of your face the whole entire time so that no one can say that you're whispering, that your evidence was contaminated. You know, because I've been accused of it. I mean, I went to film school. I know how to fake stuff. And even though I may capture the best full-bodied apparition on film, I can't present it that way. I can't, because people will say, well, he knows After Effects. He knows all these editing programs. So, you know, I'm just on the documentary side. But I'm glad to see that the psychic people they feel comfortable. And I'm starting to see that. I mean, more people for this documentary that I'm shooting, they're wanting to be on film doing their communication. And it's not been that way ever. You know, 5 years ago, I could probably find maybe 5 people who would be willing to go on camera and say, I see ghosts.
I had a conversation. One of the reasons why I brought that up about the psychic shows is Kim and I have some good friends, and if you manage to come up to the channel, you'll get to meet them. And I don't want to mention their name yet, okay?
Right.
But I know Kim's going to know who I'm talking about. But they've done a couple shows on Discovery where they've brought them in, and especially the one is psychic, the other one is just kind of like her, travel along with her. Mm-hmm. They got contacted about a month ago to come and do another show. However, they were told, we want you to see this and to feel this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever get scared in when she said no? They're like, can you pretend to be?
Yeah. No, this was. Well, you didn't hear about this before.
No, this was the one I heard before from her.
Right. Yeah, and also when Kim and I were with them not too long ago, they were also instructed on the one show, can you act a little more scared? And she said, no, because I'm not. But this one that they got called last month to do, they refused. They said,
mm-hmm.
no, this is how we work.
Good,
I don't
good
need
for
the
them.
money that bad. I have a good pension.
That's the thing. Working almost every position in the film world. The only reason why I went to film school was to have a certificate to show that you're credible. If that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. I had been working behind the scenes for many, many years. I did not tell people that I did because, I don't know, it just, when you tell people you work in the entertainment industry or filmmaking, they instantly think that they can, hey, he can get us on the show, let's talk to him. Mm-hmm. Then it becomes a whole different scenario. But I'm glad to hear that someone said no.
Yeah.
Because
I think it's happening a little bit more than we know because, you know what, people are, especially if you're on Facebook, okay, word gets around real quick. And some of the real heavy hitters out there that think they're, the little guys are coming forward and saying, you know what, you know how you fake like you didn't know that person? You're drinking buddies with them. We saw you. We know, and then it just kind of goes around. So,
and that's getting back to that whole social media. I mean, that's the beast of the whole thing. Right now, it is very hard to lie, like in a reality television show setting or a paranormal. Paranormal shows are reality anyway. It's really hard because the truth will come out. There's going to be a camera somewhere. Someone's going to have a smartphone. They're going to take a picture. And then you are completely screwed. You're going to have to do the whole Jersey Shore thing because you can't do paranormal reality TV anymore. And that's the thing. The directors have ethics. I'm starting to see a combination of a director of photography, which is the person that controls the cameras and the lights. I'm starting to see a combo where the director of photography is the director, and then you have a producer. And the producer, all his job is to make it happen. He doesn't care. And I can't be a producer. Can't do it. I have ethics. Movies are different. TV is a whole different animal. And you've got producers out there that sleep very good at night, knowing that they had someone tell a complete lie. And but I will tell you, there was a producer that is no longer with Go Go Lucky Paranormal Entertainment. That's the reason why he was fired. And that was right after the whole Grant coat pull thing. He was fired within 2 or 3 weeks after that. I mean, Ghost Hunters has went through a lot of producers simply because it's just it's a very entertaining show, but there was a season where they had to always have something haunted for some reason. And it was during that season where, the executive producer was like, hey, you must have a good track record because everything that you're investigating is haunted.
Right.
So, and a lot of things people don't understand, too, is when it's a show like Paranormal State, let's just use that one for instance, they think that it's non-scripted, and nowhere does it say it's non-scripted. You have to have some type of script. They're not going to release $250,000 to a director to go out wild guns saying, hey, I'm just going to go shoot something and put it together for the editor to put together. It's not going to happen that way. They're going to have a baseline script that's going to, show location. It's going to show like a map. And I know a friend of mine, when Ghost Lab came to their location, she found something like that, and she thought that she had something on the production company. And, maybe I was a bad friend. I should have told her, hey, this is how television works. But at that time, I just didn't feel it was my place because I didn't have a dog in the hunt. I was just a friend of the person. But TV is, it's a good thing. It will get you exposure as far as paranormal investigating, but it can be your worst enemy, especially. It's like Ghost Adventures. Zach has 100% rights to edit anything he wants in and out of that show. Not very many shows are like that. A lot of shows, you are just a cast member. You sign a contract. You smile very nicely this way for the camera, that way for the camera, and that's it. You don't know what is going to be aired until you see it 2 weeks before it's aired on national TV, and that's a scary thought. Yeah.
Well, we'll see, Tommy. I didn't hang out with you to get on national TV. I hung out with you because you ran from me.
Yes, you were actually my energetic twin. I've never met anyone like you. Yes, I have. I've met my daughter, of course, but it was weird when I first met Kim. I don't know. I had this vibe. It was kind of like I don't like mirrors at all. When I shave my head, it takes all I can do to look in the mirror and shave my head, because I've always had this fear of something coming up behind me. There's a whole other dimension inside the mirror. Too many horror movies at a young age, I guess. So when I first met Kim, I felt that energy. I'm like, there's got to be a mirror around here somewhere, because I feel that weird thing. So she would move 2 steps this way, I would move 2 steps that way. So it was almost like a dance. And then finally, closer to the end of the convention, she just finally grabbed a hold of me and said, "Hey, look,
No, I jumped at you. And you jumped back, and I'm like, okay, why?"
Yeah. And what's weird is the way she perceives energy. There's not a lot of people that have. She's very outspoken, and I'm a introvert. It took me a long time to learn to, especially in directing, to tell people what I felt on the inside. It took me forever, but she, Kim is more.
I'm a big mouth. Say it.
That's a good word. But it was like weird. I'm like thinking, wait a minute, she's saying things that I want to say, but I guess I don't have the balls to say it. So yeah, and when we investigate, the whole hospital can be wide open, but we end up going. And what's weird, what I've noticed too, is when we merge together, that's when either really good stuff happens or really bad stuff happens.
Well, and it's one of those.
Opposite.
And it's one of those to where we can be on completely different floors, completely different ends. Somehow we get to the middle, we do this weird little dance, and then we shoot back out. But we never lose step.
Exactly. It's really, really strange.
But yeah, Tommy's the first man I've actually made jump like that. So. Oh yeah, and the whole Ovilus thing. Tommy and I are sitting there at the table right after that episode. And that's the first time I'd ever been around an Ovilus. And you had removed all the bad words, all the paranormal words, and all the everything else. And every time we'd look at Jim and Eric and go, "Who are they? What did it say?"
Paranormal retards.
Every time.
Every time. And that's the thing with those pucks and the paranormal thing. I got with Bill Chappell and I said, "Hey, what is the programming language?" And it's all public domain. You can go on the website and look at it. So it's numbers. It puts a number to each word. So I erased all the numbers and all the words that were paranormal. And I can't explain it. I know a lot of people do not like those devices, but, you cannot tell me that something didn't happen when I deleted the daggum words, and it just kept on and kept on and kept on. Very, very strange.
It said that like 7 or 8 times that night.
Yeah.
But it also said my grandma's name, my grandpa's name, my mom, the school I worked at in another state.
Yeah.
Because remember, it kept saying Ladue.
Yeah, it sure did. Yeah.
And I worked at Ladue Middle School at the time, but not in Tennessee. So yeah, I think out of that little session there were 24 keywords.
Yeah, it was a very, very, very strange. And right after that investigation, I decided to do an episode of Fear, which that's coming back to YouTube. And it was just something that I threw together, and I have never had that experience before. I went in there scientifically try to prove that fear can make you hallucinate, can make you
Hear things.
Yeah, hear things. But I'll be damned. The stuff that I thought that I was hearing, I captured on audio. So that tells me, wait a minute here, maybe fear beats us down to our raw nature. No more, once when you get past of being scared of the dark, I think that's when, your inhibitions go away. And once when you get comfortable with your own skin and you forget the camera's there, that's when the real fun begins. Because I'm looking to shoot an episode at Waverly. I'm working out the details of location cost. And the fun thing is about Waverly, everyone knows about little Timmy. Everybody knows about this. Well, the fun thing about Fear that I didn't show in the documentary is the person's blindfolded. They don't know they're at Waverly Hills Sanatorium until the next day whenever they get out of the location. Of course, there's some places in Waverly that people would know. But I know that, when I'm able to introduce myself to the Shanley Hotel, I know that's a place that I'll definitely want to film definitely an episode there.
Oh, yeah. And that's the kind of place for somebody like you.
Mm-hmm.
The minute you pull up into the parking lot,
oh, yeah.
Well, they don't really have a parking lot. It's just like part of their yard. It'll hit you like a ton of bricks. I mean, you just feel it. And most people that aren't as sensitive, it takes them to walk through the front door. I mean, it just comes alive. And every time that I go, and I've been there, oh geez, I can't even tell you how many times. When I pull away, the further and further I get, I start to feel like, I don't know, melancholy, depressed, because the spirits there are very friendly for the most part. Mm-hmm. And one thing, Kim and I, we've talked about this on a show previous, a couple times. She and I were there in the beginning of November, and unbeknown to us, the night before, he had some investigators in there that weren't so great. Mm-hmm. One of them was drinking in particular, got a little violent.
Right.
It was a nasty situation, and eventually Sal, the owner, had to ask them to leave because he won't put up with that. Well, here comes Kim and I. Now, Kim's been there. Was that your third time, Kim?
Yes.
Okay. And like I said, I can count at least 15 times that I've been there. So, and I'm a firm believer, and Kim is too, when you go to a place enough times, the spirit starts to know you, okay?
Absolutely, yeah.
And the room that we picked is the same room that I always prefer to sleep in. I have a connection to that room and why I want to stay there. It was the first night in all the times that I've been there that I could not sleep. She had a restless sleep, and I love that room because it's got one of the nicest beds. It's in the corner. It's not too noisy, and as soon as my head hits that pillow, I'm asleep. It was the worst night of our lives. Well,
between the two of us, we probably got a total combined sleep of 2.5 hours.
If that much.
Wow.
At one point, I had to leave the room. It was like maybe 4 or 5 o'clock, and go downstairs and sit in the great room by myself, which you don't do because it's creepy to begin with, let alone during the middle of the night and you're by yourself. I had to get out of that room. So right before we were getting ready to leave, we're sitting there having our coffee, talking to Sal and stuff, and we found out what had happened the night before. And he says, I'm so glad you guys didn't come last night because we were supposed to come up, but Hurricane Sandy hit, and I had a flooded basement that we had to tend to. So there was reasons that stopped us from going, or Kim and I may have gotten hit harder. But we found out that the woman that was drinking, that was the room that she was in. And, I mean, we've never, at least I can only talk for myself, I never felt that negative in a place. It was more restless. Like they were trying to let us know, you would not believe what happened here last night. You got to make it stop. I mean, we were getting hit from all sides with like this physical and emotional type thing. So.
Well, Tommy, you know me. I went into a full asthma attack. I don't have asthma.
Right.
Yeah, she was. Like I said, I left the room. She stayed in there. She finally, when she fell asleep, I had to get out. I was getting like stomach pains. I felt like my heart was racing, and I'm like, I knew I wasn't afraid or having a panic attack because I'm very, very comfortable here. Right. But it was kind of like letting us know things were not right. And then, when we found out what happened, I think we both took a sigh of relief that it wasn't us per se.
And actually what had started the whole thing that evening is right as both of us started to doze off, something started violently shaking the bed like, hello, wake up, we're talking to you.
I mean, wow. We could not sleep.
And that's what started it, and it just kept going all night.
Well, I'll tell all your viewers, hopefully, if this is being recorded, that people can watch this in archive. I filmed a movie. First of all, I want to apologize to anyone that has went to the South Pittsburgh Hospital between the months of June, July, August, September, and probably October of last year. If you got attacked, it was because of me and my production team. And I'll tell this to everyone. It is not a play location. Mm-mm. Nowhere is a play location. I did not realize that you could really upset stuff. Jim O'Rear, him and Daniel Emery Taylor were the writers of this script, and Jim came to me after I shot The Boogeyman, and he couldn't find a director that had the balls enough to film this movie, and it is if both of you are old enough to remember the exploitation films.
Yep.
We're going back in the late 60s, early 70s, exploitation straight up. And that's when I read the script, I fell in love with it because I love exploitation film. And I really did not have, I didn't put two and two together. When I get in work mode, it's kind of like if you were to be hired by the Shanley to tear the roof off and you're a roofer. You don't think about the spirits. You just tear the roof off and you put it back. Well, I've changed my whole opinion about that. My world came upside down. After filming that movie, which includes a lot of rape scenes, we filmed it in I guess if you can film a rape scene classically, I guess. But it's one of those stories where good versus evil and good wins at the very end, and the people who are doing the bad things get their justice. But while we were filming it, we experienced something at that place that I've never experienced before, without being in a paranormal investigation. Okay, there was a time where we were down in the basement area and in the maintenance area, and we had a scene, and we were in between, right at lunch, going into the second half of the production day, which we worked around 16 hours a day. So we're getting in that second 8 hours. We're all sitting down. Everyone in the hospital stopped at the same exact second. People were standing straight up, and it looked like everybody went to sleep. We did this for 27 minutes. Everyone. And then it just it was 97 degrees in the basement because it was August. And everyone got freezing cold. You could see the breath coming from, you could see the steam coming from our breath. And I knew at that point in time that I was in over my head spiritually, but I had a job to do. So we continued on. That's where the story begins. We ended production. Whatever bad thing was there followed me home. And it got so bad, my daughter started seeing things moving in the house. We had a barn outside behind our house. It looked like somebody one night had hung themselves from the eave of the barn. We came home, and me and my wife and my daughter saw it, and it disappeared. It's just stuff like that. And I didn't realize that you could upset an environment so bad because the spirits there at that hospital love the hospital. And I didn't put two and two together that we are making a horror film that, first of all, we have a gruesome rape scene. It's not real rape, it's play rape, if that makes any sense. And we also have knives, and we're sticking into people. But I don't think the entities and spirits and ghosts can't see that. They see the energy. And when I was talking to the actors, I asked them, I said, well, where were you at? You know, we gauge it 1 to 10. Where were you at? And a lot of actors blacked out and didn't remember anything. We had a scene with, her name is Lauren, and her scene was one of the most gruesome of them all. And I have never, as a filmmaker, just sunk my head in shame. Wasn't because I was ashamed of it, because art is not safe. Let me tell you that first of all. Art's not safe. I felt bad because it just felt like everyone in the hospital, like spirit-wise, were out in the hallway. And they were looking in going, what are you guys doing? This is where we save people's lives.
Well, Tommy, and you also have to think about it. How many times had you been there as a paranormal investigator?
Yeah.
And then they're looking in at you like, what the hell are you thinking?
And that's exactly, you know, I couldn't sleep there. It was, I mean, there's a room that I always sleep in. I didn't sleep very well. There was a time where we went to bed at like 2 a.m. and something knocked on my door at like 4:30, woke me up, and I heard with my own ears, you know, it's time to go. So I get my clothes on and get my director's book and walk outside, and there's not a soul in the hallway. So I just tell people, be very, very careful what you do in these in these situations, because, you know, some people will, you know, like if it's an insane asylum, they'll put on straitjackets. I get that. But I think that if you push it a little too far, which, you know, what we did was acting, but I've heard people actually physically having sex in locations, doing drugs and things like that. So I warn people, it's really not a good thing to do. As a filmmaker, I will never, ever, ever do that again. I did things, you know, Cindy from the hospital and I had a long conversation, and, you know, a lot of the paranormal community shunned me for making that film. It's already been shown in Germany. It's already been shown in Kentucky. So some of the ghost hunter people are contacting me going, what in the heck was your problem? Why did you do this? But then they, you know, me explaining them, you know, it's not that I have multiple personalities. It's just that's the work side of me. You know, I got hired on to do a job. I did it. Am I ashamed of the movie? I'm not ashamed of the movie. I asked the producer to, you know, after the editing is done, I'm done. I don't want a cent from it. You know, I've got emails to prove that I basically walked away from the project because my conscience got to me, and I said, I can't. Enough's enough. I just felt really, really bad knowing the location, knowing that there were rapes there, that there were abortions there, and here I was glorifying it. So, but it's definitely not a movie it's not a PG-13 movie, I tell you that. It's a pretty gruesome movie. But again, I was in control of the editing, so I thought that in my mind, even though we film a gruesome rape scene, that I could edit it down to where it wouldn't look so gruesome. But Jim Ritter, the producer, knows exactly what the horror genre and the distributors want, and they really wanted that raw, gritty, you know, house on the left, you know, really bad stuff. And I tell you what, you know, I edited that thing for 4 months, and It got to me. It really did. I thought that I was going to lose my mind. If you've never heard someone scream for 4 months, edit a horror film, because I heard people screaming, I heard people yelling. It was fun. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't trade it for anything. It definitely showed me that exploitation films. That's one of those. I chalked it up. I did it. Don't want to do it again. But yeah, it was a bad scenario. I mean, I'm probably going to be going back to the hospital just to kind of hang out with Doug and Cindy, and I'm kind of very leery of going there because I've got a lot of apologizing to do to them. You know, I've apologized to the paranormal community, and it's totally different than the spiritual community. You know, when I say mass every Saturday, I try to include the spirits of that location and whatever I disrupted. But Cindy told me that days after we left, it changed. It changed for a long time, and I'm not laughing about it. I just think that you scientific guys, there you go. You know, yeah, if that's a proof enough, we stirred it up.
Well, you got 67,000 square feet to apologize to.
Yeah, it's going to take a while.
But, yeah, the same thing. If someone goes in and disrupts it all, other people pay. I mean, everybody who came in after you paid. We paid that night after the drunk lady decided she was going to threaten people.
Exactly.
Well, and also that time we were there the year before up on the 3rd floor when I was joking about her hand. There was a team. He doesn't, very rarely does he toss people out. I know of 3 people in like I forget how many years, I think he owns the place like 20 years, that he's asked to leave. And there was a team in there the weekend before that was...
The wedding.
Huh?
There was a wedding the week before.
No, but that night they were provoking. During the investigation, they were doing nothing but provoking. And we were the next team in the following weekend. I held an event there and had invited Kim to come up. And we paid for it. We weren't expecting it. I would have appreciated if somebody told us what had gone on the weekend before, so we could have been a little more prepared. But, yeah, it does. It does stir things up.
Yeah, I just warn people, don't. I'm telling you, I think that it's fun while you're there, but I think that the price is a little bit too high. You know, most people have asked me, why did you leave the paranormal? That's why. Seriously. I was afraid to go into any location because, I'm a subscriber of quantum physics. Ghosts aren't pinned to one location. They can be anywhere at any time. So I was afraid. You know, I'm almost 40 years old and can say, yep, I was afraid. I was afraid of going to any haunted location. I was afraid they were going to get me. There was many nights where I would sleep with the lights on, and I'm not a small guy. I can handle my own, but you can't fight a ghost, and you can't.
You're right on that one. Yeah, it's the thing that bothers me, and I don't want to drag on this whole subject, is I did most of my training at Fort Mifflin and also up in Gettysburg. Okay, I'm lucky. I got some really good spots to go to. And the one day the whole group, we were in Gettysburg. We were doing an evidence review at the Jenny Wade House, and we had a couple hours to kill. So we went around the battlefield and stuff. And we were winding down, thinking about going to dinner, and we're sitting on some of the rocks in Devil's Den. And van after van, and I'm not making this up, of people would pull out. They'd open the side of the van, kids, everybody, meters going, doing EVP sessions. And I'm thinking, you people have no idea what you're creating. You think it's fun and games because you see it on television. But how many of those people may have picked up something and brought it home with them? Okay, exactly. They open the door and they get back in the van. You see them going over the next spot, they run out, they're doing the same thing. It's crazy. And if nothing else, when Kim and I do some of our things, we try and educate people. I mean, especially if you come to an event, the events that I've done in the past, that's one of the things I talk about on taking things seriously. This is not a game. Ground yourself. If you can get through to a couple people, that's better than nothing. But they don't understand. You understand. Mm-hmm. You know what it's like. I've had things follow me home that's affected my household, and this is not a sport.
Exactly, and it's not a cool, popular thing to do either.
No, and the pay stinks. So
yeah.
Anyway, well, Kim.
Well, Mary.
I know actually we ran over our hour, and I didn't even realize it until I just looked at the clock.
I know we did, but it's Tommy. I told you, Tommy's great.
I can talk and talk and talk and talk.
Well, I sure hope you'll be up there at the Shanley so I can talk and talk and talk with you, because you're very, very interesting.
And that's the thing, what I've noticed, when just during general conversation like we're having now, that's when the best EVPs happen. Mm-hmm. Because the spirits want to talk. They want to communicate and listen. So, they
want to converse. They don't want to answer what day they died
what's your name?
What their name is for the 900th time. They want to talk about the pizza you're sitting there eating.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Right.
All right. Well, we're winding down here. Kim, you want to do the goodbyes?
Well, no, I don't want to say goodbye to Tommy.
But
Tommy, stick around for a few minutes. But anyway, this week on Yakking with Yeti on the 18th, his guest will be Tommy Golden.
Woo! Well, then we'll have to come back for that one.
And Friday, our guest on Pima TV is Rita Louise.
Tommy Golden. Do a 3-part miniseries.
Right?
That's right.
It's Tommy week.
And no, who's your guest? Sorry.
It's Rita Louise.
I couldn't resist.
And then next Monday, our guest is one of the speakers up at the Shanley. Well, kind of a speaker. She's doing her first gallery reading, Tracy Ray.
Awesome. Yeah. It's going to be a good one.
And with that,
Mary has a book or two.
Mary has a book to say.
Oh, yes. I have it with me. And don't forget, Animals Impacting the World. I myself and Dinah Roseberry, available at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and Schiffer Publishing.
And with that, you know what it is. Say goodnight, Mary.